Hey everyone, I just wanted to take some time to chat with you. Just have some time to talk about my time in camp and really what camp means to me. I know I've talked about it before, but I don't know if I've ever really been real with you all. And this is my time, I guess, my chance, you could say, to sit down and talk with you about the impacts that camp has had, not only on the lives of the kids here in Hungary, but in my life. You know, a lot of times I get the question of, well, you go and you just share the gospel for a week in a country you don't really know. That's what I used to get. And nowadays, well, you just take a week and you go share the gospel, which is important, but it's more than that. And so I want to take the next few minutes and be really real with you. This is going to be uncut, really unedited. Just, I'm going to talk to you like I would in person. I would with you one-on-one. Because I think there's something so much bigger in camp ministry that people tend to forget and people don't want to acknowledge. And sometimes people don't realize the impact that you have on a single kid or a single opportunity or any of these things. And throughout this, these few minutes here, I want to share some pictures when I'm talking about the people or the campers themselves. But I want you to get a glimpse into what it really truly means to these kids. And so first off, I want to be real with you and say, yes, the reason I go is to share the gospel. The reason I go is to share the gospel. That's the reason I decided to go to camp so many years ago. It's why my dad decided to go to camp. But there's so much more. And one of the biggest things is relationships. Now let's put it in perspective. I first went to camp 8 years ago or so, something like that, 8 years ago. And so a lot of these kids that I was with this past week or so, or a week and a half ago, they were, 10 years old, 9 years old, 9 years old. Some might be 6 or 7. It's been so long, but I built relationships up. And the reason why I say relationships is because I have realized the impact that they have had on me just as much as I've had on them. If I'm real with you all, I went into this week of camp, the week that I went, frustrated at many things in life, stressed out, and I tell you that the week of camp made me realize that it's not about me. There's so much more in this world. And to have those conversations with these campers, to have the conversations that I have, it's something that I cannot describe. You have to be there yourself. For instance, my little buddy, and I don't think I have a picture of them, but my little buddies, Nathan and Bensei, I've known them for quite a few years. And every time I go back, and I mean every time for the last 8 years, every single year I go back, they always are asking, hey, have you made a new YouTube video? Hey, have you made any new content? What are you doing now? And to you, that might not seem a lot, but it's a connection that I have with kids. Actually, they're now teenagers that are needing that encouragement. They might need that encouragement just a little bit more. And Bensei, Nathan, if you're listening to this, I want you to know that I'm always there for you. I can tell you that relationships matter, and another relationship that matters that I saw hand in hand is with Balint and his buddy and his brother and buddy, Gergu. I've known these guys. Balint's known my father for almost 10 years. I've gotten to know these guys, and there's a picture right here. As I got to know these guys, their hearts, who they are. But there's something about every time I go to camp and my heart aches because I don't have enough time. I don't have enough time to spend with them, to build a relationship, I get to see how God has moved in their lives over the last 8, 9, 10 years. God doesn't quit once you leave camp. When you plant a seed, God continues to work, and I see that every single year. Relationships matter. Just the gospel is the most important, but the relationships are right underneath that, because without relationships, you can't share the gospel. And without the gospel, they can't know the free gift of life. And I'll tell you this, that I saw how relationships impacted so many kids every time I go. And again, another example, and I know this might seem like a weird video to be doing, but I want to be real with you. I want to be honest with you. I want to be surreal with you. The impact that you can have on kids, and I'll get at the end, I'll have a point that I want to get to at the end, but I want to start here, is that Cedarville University sent a team during the middle of a pandemic. This team, led by my good friend Jillian and 4 other people, saying, we want to go and share the gospel, but more importantly, I saw them make an effort to want to not only learn the language, which is extremely hard, but to build relationships that they will last a lifetime. I talked to them right before they left, and they were all struggling to leave because the feeling of what camp brought to them, the impact that not only that they had, but the impact that people had on them. And I can tell you that your impact that you make, whether it's at camp, whether it's at school, whether it's at your job, the impact that you have in relationships matters. Friends, we live in a dark world. And it's sometimes hard to sit there and you think, I can't be that person because I'm scared. Don't be scared. Why should we be scared? I learned that this week. I've been so frustrated myself because I haven't shared the gospel the way I wanted to. I've been struggling and believing that what God's plan is and understanding what God's doing. But I went to camp, and at one night I broke down in the middle of the night. And I remember just hearing the message that Mishi brought, the message that God is there for them. He's there for me. You don't have to be the camper to go to camp, to be just stripped down, and for God to say, son, come home. Friends, he wants you. He's going to chase after you. And it takes me every year at camp. It's like God just grabs me, pulls me apart and says, Ben, I'm going to retool you. I'm going to rebuild you up because you are not living the right life. There are moments in time when I get frustrated at myself because I'm not doing enough. I'm not sharing enough. But that is why we have other people to build each other up. That is so important. And lastly, one of the biggest relationships that I've got to see is Zaki and his father. Now, if you've known me, you know I've talked about Zaki and just his own battles with different things. But this was part of the biggest lesson I learned during the week, is the relationship between a father and a son, a relationship between a father and his children. Zaki's dad never leaves his side. He is always there. He is always helping. They get tired. They still work. They still play. They don't give up. They don't quit unless it's too hard to do. But even then, they're always trying to do something to not only glorify God, but to encourage others. I'm encouraged by Zaki because I realize that if someone in what he's going through, if he can endure what he endures and love Christ and love others, then I can do the same. I shouldn't hate. I shouldn't have this bitterness towards people. I should love every single person just like Zaki loves other people. And that father and son relationship is the same thing that our Father has with us, only it is perfect love. It is unending love, and he's going to love us no matter what. So you might be wondering, Ben, why do you make this video? You spend some time on your podcast talking about it and the details and stuff like that. And yeah, you're right. But I just wanted to open my heart with you all. For those of you that watch me on YouTube, for those of you that listen to the podcast, for those of you that watch me on Twitch, for those of you that are involved at camp or teach with me or have taught with me, if I've ever let you down, if I've ever said the wrong thing or done the wrong thing, then I apologize, because I can tell you that being this week at camp really opened my eyes to who I need to be, the person I need to be. I laugh because I'm not normally like this in front of the camera, but over the last few days, the last week, as I've been back, making more videos and getting ready for school to start and all that, I've kind of broken down at times because I realized that I need to make sure that what I'm doing is for God's glory and no one else's. So the final message I want to say is this, it's not necessarily about camp. It's not necessarily about serving at camp or being at camp. It's the simple fact of living your life the way you should. Living your life the way God calls you to share the gospel, but not only share the gospel, make friendships, make relationships, because you don't know what kid needs to hear that simple encouragement or that simple story of what God is doing in your life. We serve an amazing God. I talk about all the time on the podcast that I wouldn't be here without what God has done. And sometimes I don't believe that always. Sometimes I'm so down on myself, but then I realize that God truly is there. So my encouragement to you is whatever you're doing, wherever you're at, sit down, ask God that if he needs to rip you apart and to show you the things that you need to chisel away, because that's important. And that's what matters. And I hope that by watching this video, you've gotten that encouragement and you're able to look at your life and say, God, I want to live for you better. Because that's truly what God has done for me at camp and what he's been doing for me for the last week. Remember that God is faithful and we can trust him.